All right, I think we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream here with the Cloud Underground folks. I am Laura Reilly with Nato Reilly. Of course, we've got Ken over this way, point correctly, and then Jordan down below. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thanks for watching. I'm going to pull up the YouTube so we can monitor the chat. And let's see. Make sure we're live everywhere. So thanks everyone for being here. Today we're gonna just chat more about the Underground Nexus. We've been doing some very cool and exciting things with it. Our community members have been doing some even cooler and more exciting things with it. And we also want to talk a little bit today about the consultant that you will be getting when you purchase the Cloud Underground or an Underground Nexus seat. So that's what we're talking about today.
Consultants. So we started a consultancy. It's called Underground Ops, just like Laura said. And for people who want to be a consultant or hire a consultant, it's a thing now. So
are these consultants kind of like that movie Office Space with the Bobs? The consultants like that where they kind of trimming the fat on organizations, or are these the friendly consultants?
Yeah, these are actually more friendly and probably will bring more benefit to your organization than the Bobs. Yeah. The Bobs were cutting the fat. We're like bringing value to you.
Yeah. So where do we want to, should we start with introductions or where do we want to start?
Well,
we're live.
Sure. I mean, if you guys want to say more about yourselves, I gave a real brief who everyone was, but yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Ken, you want to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi everyone that doesn't know me. Probably not too many these days, but hello, my name is Ken. I live in outer space, and I do a lot of cybersecurity training in different areas, and run the Cyber Life TV show and all sorts of other things that I'm involved in. That many of those I can't talk about, at least right now. So that's my life.
Lots of irons in the fire over there.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Jordan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jordan Anderson. I'm the CTO for Cloud Underground. And just I'm helping develop the tools and test things and make this thing move forward and grow. So it's fun. It's fun stuff. And we built some really exciting tools and an awesome ecosystem. So
it's super cool.
Yeah, Jordan was one of our main developers for the Underground Nexus. Of course, we have Nato. Tell us about yourself.
So I worked on it's been a long time coming. The stuff that made the Underground Nexus started like in 2016. And then I've just been working on those things ever since, and I just never stopped. I remember in 2016, someone told me that they don't want to support my company because they believe that I'll probably quit within just a few months. And now it's 2022. Here we are, and we got there. And then after that, someone else told me that they think that what I'm trying to do is too ambitious and that it's going to die the death of 1,000 paper cuts. And but here we are, and here we are.
Yeah, we showed them, huh?
Somebody predicted we were going to sink like a Led Zeppelin, in other words.
They didn't even think that the software would like make it to. They were like, "That's not possible." Anyways, there you go.
I think we get that a lot, actually. I guess I'll say really briefly. I'm Laura Reilly. I am the CEO of Cloud Underground. You guys probably see me if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel on our live streams and various events. So that's the whole team. But yeah, let's address that, because I think people always say to you, like, "Oh, that's not possible.
People always think
you
it's
can't
made
do
up."
that." This is not real.
It's really easy to understand why people can have that opinion when, we're talking about a system where you can be running multiple VMs and streaming and then do other stuff, and it can all run on like a 4-core Raspberry Pi with potentially 2 gigabytes. Apparently, one of our members is running with a 2 gigabyte Pi, which is crazy to me. We use 8s mainly, but it's understandable like why people are so skeptical about that. But it is a thing. Get it on GitHub and download it.
Copy paste data centers. People ask me,
find your cheapest laptop.
The number one question I get is like, well, but what do you do with it? It's like, well, it's a data center. They're like, well, but what do you do with data center? The reason why no one knows what to do with data centers is because you probably could never afford to be in one, or you have to like have the security authorization to be in one. But you can do anything that people who run data centers in it do. So if you're not someone who knows what to do with the data center, maybe Nexus might not be for you, because the learning curve, if I'm honest, like learning how is a data center built, that's step one. So if you want to understand like the foundation of like, well, how do I start with the idea of like, what is Nexus? Start with understanding what data centers are. What do data centers do? What are they for? Networking, the foundations, the basics. Without the basics, it never is going to make any sense. Networking comes first. You got to have security once you have networking, because things begin talking, and then you host things in it. And when you host things in it, well, what do you host? What do you want to host? This stream, we are hosting a stream right now. Websites are hosted. Steam hosts a way to sell video games. Amazon hosts whatever you want. Netflix hosts movies. Whatever you want. It's a data center. Copy paste it.
Yeah, I think the cool thing also about the Nexus, just kind of piggybacking off what Nato was saying, for those out there trying to learn like IT, cybersecurity stuff, trying to get your first job, you can go pay, $100,000, or maybe not that much, $50,000 or something at college. You can pay for a couple thousand for certs and all that training. But at the end of the day, imagine if you like went to an employer, walked in the interview, and they're like, well, what kind of projects you work on? You're like, oh yeah, I built a data center from scratch. And I built a SOC. Some people have used it and built SOCs. Like, yeah, I built a home SOC, and now I do some pen testing and forensic labs. I'll be like, why are you interviewing for an entry-level SOC analyst role? Like, you got this other one here, right?
Yeah.
So it gives you real projects you can work on, and you can, as Nato mentioned, you can download it for free. You can download it for free, play around. There's a dojo you can get involved in with a lot of people that are all mixed levels of experience. People that are just starting out like you, other people that have been doing it for years. It's just a cool environment to be in, where you no longer have to let economic barriers get in your way, right? You can literally get the jobs that you want. You can build real skills that employers are looking for. Like, they don't. Yes, people are still living on the cert dream, right? Oh, I get Sec Plus, I'll be there. I get CEH, whatever. But yes, there's hiring managers out there. There's still people in the industry out there like that have that mindset. Like, people I hire have to have these things. But the majority of us that have rational thought and minds that are not crazy, we understand that technical skills and real skills are the things that we need out there. Because if you can walk into the interview, like with me, I'm a hiring manager. If you can walk into an interview with me and say, hey, or even you reach out to me if I'm hiring and you're like, hey, I built a data center and I built a home SOC. I don't fully understand all of it yet, but this is what I built. I'll be like, all right, let's get on a call. This is if I'm hiring. So if you're watching this right now, I'm not hiring, by the way. So don't send me a bunch of messages. But like, that's what happens, right? That's showing people you can actually do it is the key. And the great thing about the Nexus is, unlike using something else like AWS, Azure, or whatever, you don't have to create an account and worry about putting a credit card on file and all these things. If you're an everyday person, you can just download it, use it, spin it up on your local system, and go to town with it and build things and tinker around. And some people are hosting games on it. I mean,
yes, already.
It's hard for us to say like what people are doing. There's so many things people are doing with it. I think someone just built like a rap studio or something.
Hip-hop stock.
Yeah, hip-hop. Yeah,
people making games.
Yeah, and I think he's actually now doing the radio station thing as well with his music.
He's on YouTube.
So that's awesome.
We've got folks doing so much.
Yeah, so for anyone out there that wants to build, a radio station with like, good 90s and 80s music, there you go.
That too.
Right, there's a project idea.
Yeah. And to kind of go with a lot of what Ken's saying, even though the way that I kind of explained it at first is like if you work in data centers. So like if you work in data centers, that's one thing. But what about those like who Ken's talking about, where maybe you aren't someone who's already a professional and you've always wanted to work in a data center and you wanted to be a data scientist or work in cybersecurity or get into pen testing? You conventionally do have to spend like $50,000 just to learn this stuff, or at least like $2,000, like on a maybe some videos or something. And now you just paid $2,000 for some videos, but that's all you got. Or this is something that it's free. It's a copy paste data center. You can copy paste it from our GitHub is where we have that living, and then it'll spin up. It's got a little bit of guidance on how to start working with things, and if you want to know how to do more with it, we have the Devsecops Dojo, which is our community, and you can come in and just talk to folks and learn from our other practitioners too, because the dojo is particularly kind of built for people who are building business, working in business, but what it's become is a lot more beginner friendly because it's made for people who know what they're doing, but a lot of them like helping beginners and like mentoring beginners, and they grow from that too. So if you're like, oh, I wish I could do something, it might not be like college and lecture halls and classrooms and all that stuff, but you can just start tinkering at home without stuff, and then when you're ready to start asking questions, you can come in and just ask real people who are doing these things for companies, for a living, starting their own companies, all that good stuff. And even if you're like a practitioner and you're working for a company and you're like, I want to do my own thing, I don't even want to work for someone anymore, normally you have to hire people to run and manage your data center. So that right there can easily be $1 million in talent or $500,000 in talent, because one engineer, and if you need like anywhere from like 3 to 10 engineers, like $100,000 per engineer, that's just like really expensive labor and talent. Plus you then have to have the servers, which can cost just as much as the talent. So if you have, say, like $120,000 worth of servers and one engineer, you're already approaching $300,000 just to be able to do what the Nexus, you copy paste the data center, and even though there's no one to help maintain it, it's automated, and then we do maintain it centrally for everyone who uses it. So technically there's still someone doing it, which is us, who's managing it. But you don't have to pay us $100,000 a year just to use the data center that we maintain for the world at this point.
Unless you want to. I mean, if you want to give us that extra money, by all means, we will not complain.
And we do get donations, so thank you to those of you.
And I think to go along with your point, Nathan, not only are you getting, like our team that is like managing the, kind of the back end of everything, you also, when you purchase an Underground Nexus seat from us, we have 3 different options for that. We have a pro version, a premium version that has even more features, and now we have a version with Blue Mira Sim built in. So between those 3 versions, no matter which one you choose, whether you go for like the lower tier one or the higher tier one, you get an Underground Ops technical services consultant to be there to like, they're going to help you deploy it. If you get the premium or Blue Mira edition, they do all of that for you. If you just get the pro, they're there to hold your hand and help you out through the process. And you're going to have this one point person that you can go to for all of any issues that you have. And that's what they're here for, is to help you like troubleshoot problems, to optimize your system, to just help you out, whatever you might need. You've got this person, this go-to Underground Ops consultant that you can call, and that's what they're for, is to help you solve problems, essentially. And they're all mentored by us. So Underground Ops is our service provider, like sister company, essentially, to Cloud Underground. And all of those people are vetted by us, trained by us, mentored by us. Like, we find like the best and brightest within our communities, and those are the people that you'll be working with, which we have some extremely like incredibly talented individuals who've come into the dojo over the years, who have gone through our previous courses with when Nathan and I had Notia Point, which is still there. You can still go check that out.
That's so true.
Yeah, so you essentially are getting like a full-time employee as well, that you don't have to pay benefits for, that are just there to help you out when you need them. So
we help lower the risk of hiring technical talent, because we sort of help manage the talent side and the infrastructure side for you when you pay for a Nexus seat. So like, just as Laura's saying, let's say that you chose any of the tiers. There's there's like a $5,000 tier, like a $16,000 tier, and then the like $40,000 Blue Mira tier. And maybe $40,000 sounds like a lot of money to pay for, say, like a software service. But the difference between what we do is, since our infrastructure, we've gotten it to where it basically costs nothing. We're able to basically just like make it the cost of all labor. So you're paying for the people who are managing everything behind the scenes and paying for the consultants' labor and time. And that's why $40,000, that's paying for someone who's going to be with you for a full year, just like an employee. So then on top of that, you get an entire server that's up in the cloud that's managed for you, that you can connect to, you can use, and you get full Blue Mira service, where if you don't know what Blue Mira is, it's a security information management security information event management technology designed to help you monitor your technology and your security, which a lot of compliances make it's like mandatory, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts that you got to have your monitoring going. So if you have like to abide by PCI or HIPAA, it can be really expensive to figure out how to meet those requirements, because you have to be able to afford test infrastructure for HIPAA or somebody going to jail. Then you have to have the people to manage the test infrastructure, once again, or somebody going to jail if it's HIPAA. Or PCI, you're not going to be able to collect payment card information. And then not only do you have to have people managing it, but then you have to have people who are going to produce the reports and all of that good stuff. So you have to have infrastructure, people managing it, and then like ongoing like reports automation. $40,000 instead of paying $100,000 on some servers, $100,000 on an engineer, and all of your time and pain and frustrations. It's the alternative to paying like $200,000, and that's the alternative cost for what that provides. Why do we keep the cost so low? It's very automated, and like I said, I spent like 5 years building this thing. People are like, how'd you do it? It took a lot of time to build it. That's how. It's not magic. It looks like magic. People are like, well, that's not possible. It's like, it's not possible if you didn't spend 5 years making something that makes it possible. Mm-hmm. And then it copy-pastes. It's the fastest way to get a data center built. Oh, yeah, that too. You don't have to wait for people to build the data center. It builds itself, and it takes like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Versus like 3 years to build a data center.
Jordan made a video about that recently, which I think it took you, definitely less than an hour, like 45 minutes or something.
Well, it took me like 15 minutes to do the manual stuff, and then like 20 minutes to deploy the script, essentially, that builds everything. So
oh yeah
less than an hour for sure.
And
less than an
awesome.
hour, you have a fully secure development environment to
You can
build
spin
whatever
up
you want.
VMs,
Yeah, turn it into a SOC.
And then Blue Mira, normally it takes like months to set up a SIM.
Provide DNS, etc.
Oh yeah, it has built-in by default DNS monitoring, all that good stuff. And then normally it takes like about 3 months to get set up and configure a SIM. Even if your Blue Mira thing, setting that up takes like 3 days or something like that, it's still infinitely faster than the alternatives on the market. So it's actually, I dare someone to challenge this. Is there a faster way to deploy a full data center plus a fully configured SIM with fully configured detections already built and managed? I think it's probably the fastest. Well,
I would assume so. And
yeah.
I mean, that's one of the big reasons why Blue Mira was such a natural partner for us, I think, is because they're kind of doing the same thing, trying to push the technology, make it easier to deploy, faster to deploy, and work for you better than what's out there already. So yeah, and make it cheaper as well.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
that's our goal as well. So
definitely, I think that's a great point, Jordan, because Blue Mira talks a lot about how they're trying to democratize the cybersecurity space, and I think ties a lot into what we as Cloud Underground are doing as well, which is just like our motto on our website is disrupting the cloud one container at a time. It's like what we're trying to do, and I think what Blue Mira is also trying to do. I don't want to speak to them or speak for them, but I think is just trying to put all of these tools in the hands of the most people possible. Like, break down the barrier to entry so that anyone can get in. Anyone can start learning these skills, start using these tools, secure your home, secure your business, just make the internet a safer place in general for the maximum number of people. So
Yeah, and just like Laura said, like the security thing, security, because it is such a complex practitioner. Like Ken knows how complex it is to even teach cybersecurity. It's a bear. Everything about it is just a beast. And then one of the number one threats with cybersecurity alone is just the misconfiguration. Let alone like once it's up and running, you got to secure. But if you have to learn how to be a blue team, keep something secure, and you have to make sure like that from the first day that something's created that the misconfigurations are at a minimum, that's one of the reasons why we have significant security risks, because people are trying to learn everything all at once in a space that's kind of a monster to learn. And so with the Nexus, spins up the vast majority of your configurations for you in a way that's generally secure already, where you still have to know something about some kind of security, but it by default automatically protects you from a lot of misconfigurations. And then let's say that there's a misconfiguration in the Nexus that someone reports to us. Shoot, we change it for everyone just by changing it ourselves internally, then everyone can get the security update or revision or modification. So making security something that we can just give everyone. So why DevSecOps? Nexus is kind of like the security in DevOps. And if the idea of trying to have a more secure world is that we should like make things and then try to make it secure after the fact, that's where we are having disasters before we even get to security. Half the time, security breaches happen because people are just trying to get there and just in the middle of that journey and never quite figured it out. Or you can just start with security in the middle of your development, where it's security's there from day one. When you, just like Jordan was saying, when you set up the Underground Nexus, it automatically is monitoring your DNS queries and your network traffic. And even if you were to go look at my Nato's Code YouTube channel, there's a 24/7 stream running, and you can see that stream is showing our, like, we have a front end honeypot and firewall space, and that honeypot space, it shows if there's something strange going on, like right there to the whole world, so everyone can tell if something bad's happening to us or something not bad's happening to us. And then if something bad's happening to us, there's a whole lot of people who will swoop in to fight with us. So we are kind of a scary group of people these days for attackers. But it does keep us safe when you have a whole dojo of people who are like, we're getting attacked, and then all of a sudden everyone swoops in. Anyways, but it's interesting because we can do it all with one tool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And if you guys are interested in building your own DIY Nexus, or if you want to join the Devsecops Dojo, there are links to do both of those things down in the description of this video. So feel free to jump in. And to Nathan's point too, everyone, we released the Nexus to the dojo folks initially, which is another benefit of being in the dojo. You kind of get first access to our open source tools. And, he spent a lot of time over the weekend just taking all of the feedback that we were getting from people and implementing updates essentially. So, that's going to show up on the screen.
Well,
okay.
It was already popping on the screen, so I was just closing it.
Okay. Anyway.
It's too late.
Hey, if that's your password, show it. Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Anyway,
now, I think the other another application of the Nexus that my team's actually working on over at CyberLife is, instead of us using a lot of expensive lab providers, I mean, some of these, especially in the DoD space, some of these lab providers, you're paying $250,000, $1 million a year. And yes, a lot of those agencies have that money, they've got that budget, but for us regular folk, that's not realistic. So we need a secure lab environment. So actually, we're going to be building out all of the labs for the CyberLife School will live in the Nexus. They'll be built out with a Nexus, and we will not be using any other labs, no other lab providers, etc. Just because this is the future. This is where things are. And yes, as Nato said, he spent years doing this, years of toiling with computer code and eating pizza, gluten-free, of course. But this is where we are. This is where we are now, and the other lab entities out there are pretty antiquated. I've worked with a number of them. Mm-hmm. I've seen just about every single one, and that's why we're using the Nexus for that. So just saying that to say that content creators out there, this is something else you can use, right? You can download it for free, play around with it, and you can build your own labs with this instead of worrying about, can your students outside of the U.S. afford a computer that has enough storage to be able to run the labs that you want them to run, because realistically most of them can't these days. But if you can run it all on a Raspberry Pi, think of the reach. Think of all the students that couldn't take your courses that now can. So it's just a huge impact you can have just using something that's free right now for the average person.
Or even, I think one of the applications too is you can run it on like an old computer too. If you got an old laptop running, laying around that you're not sure what else to do with, you can turn it into a Nexus. So
those old gateway computers you got from the early 2000s, late 90s.
Oh yeah.
Repurpose them.
Might have 2 or 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Good enough.
Oh yeah. It is pretty incredible. You can like go find all your old computers that you're like, I didn't know what to do with these, and you can literally cluster them because the Nexus clusters, and you can build a data center across all your old stuff and then integrate them as workers to some of your newer stuff if you want.
It's pretty cool.
Cluster. You can have a cluster that has DigitalOcean, Azure, 2 Raspberry Pis. Maybe it then has a Jetson Nano and a Jetson AGX, which is from NVIDIA. It might then also have a giant server, 2 laptops that you had, and a tablet too. And that might be your cluster. And it might be in all the clouds and on all the devices, but you can cluster it all together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it isolates everything. So we use, for those who aren't familiar with what the concept of hardening is, for the most part, like, if people are like, well, why can't I just go run the applications locally on my computer? Why would I use the Nexus instead of just running the applications on my computer? If you're working for a company and you get phished on your personal email, then your company gets phished with you. If you're using something like the Nexus and you get phished, the company behind the Nexus does not get phished with you. It actually probably is just fine. You can actually even save the image, copy it, and move the Nexus you were working on over to another device, and it was probably not breached alongside your computer that might now be doomed. But the Nexus lets your work not be doomed. Or your company.
Yeah, so in that regard, it's a great tool for, if you have remote teams that are collaborating, you don't have to worry about, your employees on secure home networks. So
lets developers move way faster. Honestly, the reason why I made it for developers is because one of the reasons why development, like why wouldn't you put security in the middle of the development process? It slows it down too much. In a lot of ways, you have to just let your developers move fast because developers are so expensive. You slow them down, then that dramatically drives your cost up, and then you do the security after you kind of work with the engineers, and then you have to make sure your developer spaces are kind of well managed. But the Nexus, it gives you a secure place to manage all of your developers' security so that they can move at like lightning speed. And if they're just like trying to hurry and then they accidentally got like a hidden key that went to something critical, like exposed and transferred, Nexus is all zero trust based and uses what are called sidecar proxies. And the difference between, say, like one giant environment versus having a whole bunch of sidecars, like if you think about a train, every part of the train is a sidecar, and then it has like the little train links. We use, like, I guess, encrypted spaces that sidecar to each other. And if something happens in one sidecar, it's contained in that sidecar. So if your developer is like moving at lightning speed and they're doing all the stuff, not only if they like get their sidecar just wrecked, you can also heal it. You can heal it for them. You can sit there as the admin and be like, hold on, your stuff is messed up, and then just be like, just like, all of a sudden they're like, it works again, everything's working again, and then they can just keep going. And they never have to stop. And then if they stop, it'll heal itself again, unless you have to come in there and maybe do some manual healing to it. But it's built for and with things like Docker and Kubernetes. It's heavily resilient. We tested so many outage recovery processes with it, and it's just like a starfish. It just
Chop
grows
off
those
one
limbs.
And there was and I think there's a few APT groups that were helping test as well on resiliency a few weeks back. So.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
We always have someone trying to attack us because they want to know if we're worth what we claim, I guess. But I will say, when you have people constantly attacking you, you get real good at trying to not get wrecked by it. So if we are constantly having to thwart attacks, then I'm going to put my mark of, this will handle a massive bombardment of attacks to all your people.
I also think we should add little sound effects when you send things out. It goes. Psh, 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 psh.
Oh, I even added a whole recording suite because I made this massive update to it.
Oh, interesting.
And I also made it to where you can web host Visual Studio Code to whoever you want with little password shields that pop up where someone goes to a URL and it's like, boom, you can't see what's on the other side of this till you log in. And they log in there. Boom, you have access to our special Visual Studio Code in a browser. So you can use it anywhere on any device. You can even use it on an iPad. I could be wrong that Visual Studio is not on an iPad, but I don't think it is. But you can. It has a browser. Anything with a browser can run whatever you send to them. So one of the other things I added that was interesting is, what did I add? Recording. So like the new stream that's running is running from the Nexus. There is a Security Operations Center dashboard, but it can be also used for doing like technical recordings and technical trainings. So if you have to make a whole bunch of videos on how your software works or how your app works, normally if you're like working with like making training videos on how your application works, you're going to accidentally expose a URL, you're going to accidentally expose a key, and then you're going to put that video out there. And then what happens is people watch it and they actually will use that key. So you don't want your sensitive stuff in your training content. That you don't want to do that. So the Nexus has a full-on secure space that you can just record in. You just have to make sure that what you're recording, once again, like don't show certain things. Or you can run 24/7 continuous streams like my stream where it's showing security data, but it's not showing the things that are going to make it so that someone can just outright hack us just straight through the stream. You record your sensitive stuff and stream it even. Amazing.
Yeah, there you go. Build your own radio station.
That too.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. You can build whatever app you want. You could build your own Facebook, build your own LinkedIn. You could build your own, what's that, TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could be the next TikTok. And then
Should we create it in the form of malware like the Chinese did? Oh, I'm sorry. TikTok's a great app. Yeah, totally secure.
A little bit of
Super secure.
spyware.
They're definitely not stealing any of your information.
Yeah, not at all.
Never steal.
Definitely not maintaining
maybe a
persistency
rootkit
if
or
you delete it
two.
off. Yeah, no big deal.
You could just put rootkits in your... No, probably don't put rootkits in your applications that you host from people.
That is not ethical.
No.
Yeah, but you can host like whatever. You could make your own Netflix. That's something that we're probably going to do is build like a... not probably. One thing that we're doing with the Nexus that I'm personally working on is I want to have a way for creators to be able to like make documentaries, make content, stuff like that, and be able to host their shows or their documentaries, kind of like Netflix, but it's like more private creators, the kinds of people who like probably aren't going to make it on a Netflix. If you're making a documentary on cybersecurity and it's about cryptology and what it's like to be a cryptologist, a lot of people really just might not care. But the people in our arena do care, and they're like, what? I want to know about these things. And so we're going to make a channel and a way for people to do that. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to partner with some of these bigger groups like Hulu and Netflix and stuff like that. But we're gonna make our own.
Or some of
we
the
already started
other,
doing
like,
test streams with Ken,
smaller
so we know
private
it's possible.
ones like Floatplane or something. I'd be much more interested in partnering with somebody like that. I think.
Yeah, we could partner with Floatplane. That'd be sweet.
No.
Oh, we could partner with Floatplane.
Yeah, that's what I'm
We
saying.
could help them host. Be like, hey, Floatplane, do you want some lower cost hosting?
They're already doing what you're talking about doing, so I think that would be cool.
It'd be so easy to migrate it all too, and be like, we can make it real easy to migrate too. Whatever.
Make
they
it
want.
cheaper for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So if
I'm
anyone
sure their
from,
cloud bills are quite
Insane.
crazy.
Probably.
If anyone from Linus Media Group is watching us,
Yes.
call us.
We've tested our continuous streams. It works. Well. Very well. And it's cheap. Most importantly.
But yeah, I think there's a lot. Obviously, there's so much you can do with the Nexus. It's an amazing tool. It comes with a consultant if you buy a seat from us, or you can just build your own.
Yeah.
Do DIY it yourself and
Yeah, if you're not in a
customize
hurry.
it however you want.
Yeah.
Join the dojo. We'll help you out.
Maybe that's the way to put it. If you're not in a hurry, it's free. If you're trying to just like do business, get to market, get customers, pay for a seat because it comes with help, and that's the most important part about the seats. You're paying for people, you're paying for help because the tools don't cost nothing. So instead, we can send you all the people that you need, and that's what the purpose of the seats is all about. And we even have a way for if our consultant, if they need help to help you too, they have access to a talent pool where they can recruit more help to come help you as well. So it's not just them. So you can just summon assistance on the fly with our Nexus seats.
Awesome.
And we can support, I think right now our limit is probably like 30 seats per company. So if you're a company and you have like 30 developers and you want to make it so that everyone has their own development space that's dedicated and you don't have a whole lot of money for development space, look at our seats, because for $5,000 per engineer, an engineer is probably already costing you on the lowest end like $70,000 for someone who doesn't necessarily make that much. And then software engineering can go up to like $500,000 a year.
Yep.
If you're paying $500,000 a year, $5,000 to $16,000 or even $40,000 to make it so that they can be significantly more productive and have their own development space, their own test resources, and someone who can help them, and a lifeline when they're like, I'm not really sure how to do this thing right here. I need some mentorship aid, or maybe you can help kind of like train me through some things that I just have no idea how to do, and I need to help your company on this release. Get a seat.
The value should be good.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, and if we have turnover protection, so if you buy a seat and your employee who the seat was for quits, you can use the consultant to kind of backfill until you can replace that engineer. So we do come with turnover protection.
Turnover.
Protection.
Yeah, so in summary, yes, it is real. Yes, it does all these things that we're saying it does. Yes, we will provide help if you're not sure how to use it or what to do, or like if you're intimidated by how to deploy it, that's what our consultants are for. And yeah, we've all been doing this for a very long time. Cloud Underground itself has really only been around for about a little over a year now, but the technology has been in development for over 5. Nathan has a ton of experience in this space, and it's real, guys. It works.
It is real, and I pity the fool who doesn't monitor the spool, so that you all know. Stay safe.
What does that mean, Nathan?
Boy, that sounds like a print nightmare.
There's an attack called Print Nightmare.
Actually, I do remember hearing
That's what happens when you're not secure. You're like, oh, I don't need to monitor. Not only did people get hacked through printers last year, but we actually had to fight an attack attempt through a Nintendo Switch. So it could be a refrigerator, it could be a Nintendo, and I'm not talking about like an attack of someone like, oh, my Nintendo Switch just got hacked. No, they're like going through the Nintendo Switch to breach your bank account.
Yes.
And they will and can take your money. It's through a Switch. It's
if your device is online, somebody's probably going to try and hack it, so you should have some good security.
Yeah.
And you can get that with the Underground Nexus.
Yeah. We'd have lost a lot of money last year if we didn't have security. Anyways, here you go.
Yeah.
Security.
Well,
Devsecops.
Well, actually, there was one thing that I wanted to say about the DevSecOps thing, because you were talking about how, there are. I think the idea of DevSecOps essentially too is that like you are building security into the entire process. Your whole team is involved, and anyone who's touching the product is involved in making it safer. And I think for a long time it didn't need to be that way. The legacy system was like you kind of combated hacks as they occurred, or like patched security breaches when you discovered them, probably because someone was trying to like take advantage of it. So I think it's time to move away from that model. It's time to like really be thinking about security from the get-go. Like what are the potential, security implications of something, and like how do you ensure that you're securing, the product sufficiently and correctly. And obviously you can't necessarily anticipate everything, but as much as you can, anticipating those potential security issues that you might have and making sure you're solving them from the get-go. Yeah. That's what Devsecops is. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's like little things like make people use the VPN or there's no access without the VPN, and make people use two-factor authentication or they don't get access to their stuff, and then enforce it and then make it mandatory. And like little things like that. It's kind of like if you have a home and you're the one who owns the home, but you have a family of 6, and you're the one who's maybe responsible for certain things. But if you don't make sure everyone's responsible for locking the door after, if you're the only one who locks the door, and then one day you just like come home and the whole house has been robbed, is it only one person of a family of 6's responsibility to make sure the door is locked? It's simple to just make sure the door is locked. Mm-hmm. It's simple to just make sure the VPN is on. Just turn it on. And if you don't know how to turn it on, ask the person to set it up for you who manages the VPN. Be like, I hate this thing. Can you set it up for me? And they'll set it up for you. It's kind of like, why do you hire a locksmith? You don't have to install the lock in your house, but you do need to lock the lock in your house. And it kind of comes down to that a little bit. Everyone's responsible at a company if they're a source of what can cause a company to break. So that's kind of Devsecops is, let's give everyone their fair share. It doesn't mean that you have to spend 40 hours a week paying attention to security, but it does mean that you have to turn on the VPN and use multi-factor authentication, like little things like that.
It's kind of like a culture shift in a company that you're looking for, right? Where everybody needs to understand that it's everybody's responsibility. We all take responsibility. It's not just the DevSecOps guy or the IT guy or whoever is in your company's job to make sure everything is secure. It doesn't really work like that. So
yeah, and if one person gets hacked, it does mean that everyone is responsible, not the person who got hacked, because it means that someone didn't do the contingencies, someone didn't do the training, someone didn't make sure that people knew what they were supposed to be doing, and someone wasn't monitoring something to like double check practices. And so there's no such thing as like if a company gets hacked, it's someone's fault. No, it's 100% of the company's fault. It's the salespeople's fault. It's the security people's fault. It's the CEO's fault. It's the help desk fault. It's everyone's fault.
Definitely. Good point. All right. Well, any closing thoughts here on Underground Nexus, Cloud Underground, Underground Ops?
I think that just my final thought or takeaway for people viewing this or watching it later is you just have to download, play with it, do your thing. I mean, touchy-feely, it sounds kind of creepy now that I say that, but like be touchy-feely with it, download it, play around with it. You'll find that you come up with some really cool ideas when you do so, especially if you're considering this for your company. Download, play around with the free version of it, check it out, try to break things, whatever, totally fine. And then that gives you better perspective, and especially if you're trying to go get budget for something like this. Yes, it's a nominal cost, but still, we have to be mindful of budgets and organizations. If you can play with it, kind of do some things with it, it helps you so much when you go into that next meeting with your boss or whatever to get that thing, right? When you say, hey, I was able to do these couple of things with it, I tried to do these attacks against it, it didn't work, or whatever, that helps you, that goes a long ways. And I'm speaking as an executive. That goes a long ways. If you walk into a meeting with me and you say, I want this thing, you better have played with it, a free version of it or something, or you better know how to get that free version or show me some videos, like something. You better be able to answer the questions that I'm going to have for you. Definitely. So my suggestion for anyone out there is just download it, play around with it. You're going to find that you can do some cool things. Get in the dojo. It's not just for people trying to get into cyber or IT stuff. The dojo is for everyone. If you're experienced, just get in the dojo. You're going to find people experienced like you in different areas. You're going to find some really good networking in there. So, I mean, again, these are free resources. It's free to download the Nexus. It's free to join the dojo. Why wouldn't you do it? It just doesn't make sense why you wouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
That's my soapbox. I'm getting off it now.
Yeah, and it's so easy. Even a CEO can do it.
Yeah, you can even build
it's
MVPs
really easy,
for
guys.
free.
I'm telling you. Even I've installed a couple of Nexuses, so.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for being here. Thanks to the Cloud Underground team. And we will see you guys all next time.